Step number 5. Now the barred door was wide open and the horses were running wild. Funny mortgages. Mortgages at adjustable, often double-digit interest rates, containing balloon payments, with very high late or prepayment penalties, where the amount of debt often exceeded the value of the property. In short, mortgages where there was no reasonable expectation that the debtors could ever make their payments began to flood the market. Most sinister of all, through the use of CDSs and CDOs, this junk could be mixed up with real security obligations and then sliced and diced so that the virgin eyes of auditors or rating agencies or investors or other holders in due course had no way of determining its true value as security for further extensions of credit.
But what big banks on Wall Street did not or would not see was what was happening on the ground around the U.S. A wave of lending abuses.
It's a phrase you're likely to hear in the future.
Predatory lending.
We trusted mortgage companies.
We said that we were swindled.
The situation have caused me to go into the state of bankruptcy.
This is what you call robbing somebody without a gun.
The Wild West experience in home mortgages was well underway.
41-year-old Essie Mae Hector, mother of 3, agreed to a second mortgage at 27.5%.
We were creating mortgages that we had never seen before, and they were being created faster and faster.
The interest rate on these loans was as high as 42%.
We saw borrowers given loans that were greater than the value of their home. Home buyers were getting loans that had no income. The borrower, particularly the elderly or the low income, had no clue as to what they signed. There was a tremendous growth of mortgages that we knew made no sense financially.
When you have a high interest rate, then you have high points, then you have prepayment penalties, when you have balloon payments, when you have adjustable rate mortgages, and when you layer those bad practices on top of a high interest rate, it becomes predatory.
Black homeowners in Atlanta have become such frequent targets of unscrupulous lenders that counselors regularly hold community meetings to issue warnings.
Monthly payments that you can't afford.
And why did they sell them to people they were not good for? They did it because they could.
We gotta fight, 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 fight.
Housing advocates around the country took on predatory lenders. But one of the fiercest fights was here in Georgia over what was called the Georgia Fair Lending Act.
But we don't need rhetoric.
The bill was sponsored by State Senator Vincent Fort.
We need action now.
People are tricked into owing more money than they could ever dream.
And backed by Governor Roy Barnes.
Talked into believing there's a way out.
Governor Barnes and others are making a last-ditch effort.
The bill targeted high-cost loans and predatory lenders with a series of rules and prohibitions.
Right now on the House floor, a governor's bill to crack down.
The mortgage lenders and the banks struck back.
None of these people have a clue of what's going on. Nobody here understands the business, and they didn't let us speak.
You would have thought I had recommended that we repeal the plan of salvation.
You know what we need? Predatory.
And why were they so opposed to it? Money. Money.
This bill will cripple the mortgage business. It's going to cripple real estate sales. It's going to absolutely devastate the home market in Georgia. I can guarantee you.
There were threats that the residents in Georgia wouldn't be able to get mortgages anymore because investors would not buy the mortgages in Georgia. If that were true, no bank would create a mortgage in Georgia.
Despite the efforts of the mortgage lobby, Barnes and Fort got the bill passed in April 2002.
Georgia now has the toughest predatory lending law in the nation.
The mortgage lobby feared that similar legislation could pass in other markets, like California. They opposed Barnes' re-election. They funded his challengers and lobbied to rescind the law.
Right after Governor Barnes' defeat in November, one of the top legislative priorities for the new governor and the new legislature was to gut the Georgia Fair Lending Act. I think it was about 2 weeks into the new legislative session, and it was gutted.
But for a 7-month period, predatory lending in Georgia declined. It may have been the last chance to slow the housing boom.
I would like to sit up here and tell you that I was like Nostradamus, that I saw that the world was going to come to an end because of all this. But I could never have foreseen the difficulty that existed. Never could I have foreseen that.